Hello, everybody. I want to try and do this in one take because I'm trying to ease my way back into doing YouTube videos. But I want to talk about mental health today. You know, it's a very important thing. It's a very relatable thing for, I think, a lot of us. And if I can offer tools to have in your tool belt, or just a piece of advice or anything, just what it means to work through that as a child of God, then I'm absolutely willing to do that, and I want to do that. So I just want to start off by saying mental health is very real. Don't let people tell you that you can't feel the way you feel. We talk about Job and David and how they wrestle with these feelings and with the things that overcome them. And that just helps us understand that big point of we're not alone. We have observable things, and of course, you've seen a friend go through rough patches, or a family member with the rough patches, whatever it is. We have examples where we understand that mental health is very real. That's a very real thing, and that's something to be protected. I think a huge point for a lot of us, and maybe not all of you, but for a lot of us, a big reason why mental health happens, or sorry, not that mental health happens, but that mental health is off, is because we place our meaning and we place our identity in things that are not Christ, whether it's good or bad. Obviously having a family is good. Obviously, having a stable relationship is great. And all these things, and having a stable job is great, but to hold it above Christ is to hold something that isn't everlasting, that isn't going to give you the satisfaction, the peace that you need, that isn't going to fully align you with your purpose. To do that, to hold something above Christ, is stating that as those things change, as we go through seasons where something's going off with our family, or the job isn't as stable as we want to, we get fired or whatever, or we just don't accomplish those things, then what happens then? Do we miss our purpose? Maybe I wasn't I'm just not as good of a person as I thought. I'm a failure. You say all these things, you beat yourself up over things that you were never meant to place your full meaning for. And it's a huge thing. We get caught up in people wanting to like us. We get caught up in people, we want to get accepted by people. We just want that relationship to work. We want that job to work out. We want that family member to forgive us, or that we, or that we need to forgive them. Whatever. We want these things. And they're very real. They're very they tend to be good desires, but again, when those things are off, when those things change, when they don't work out how we would like them to, it doesn't mean we've missed our purpose. It doesn't mean we're a failure. It doesn't mean that no one wants anything to do with us, because Christ says exactly who you are. Christ has stated everything that you need to know about yourself and about other people, and about what it means to be in his light, what it means to serve him, what it means to take on burdens, what it means to do everything in his light. That doesn't make it easy. That doesn't make it, potentially any less tough when we hear negative things about us, or when those things go off the rail and life hits us with whatever. But it is to say that those things, as great as they are, that was never what it was ultimately about. That was never what it's ultimately about. And of course, the same goes for the negative things. You know, when we struggle with pornography, when we struggle with addictions, with, you know, just talking negatively to people, or you know, lacking the wanting to forgive people, whatever, like, or just having hate in our hearts. Like, of course, we're never going to fulfill our purpose that way either. And just as you place it in something that is going to change, things that are not going to be constant, things are not going to be around forever, then your purpose is going to change, and your purpose doesn't feel like it's going to happen. It's not going to. Your purpose feels like it's going to die out, because it will. As is everything, except when you place it in something that is everlasting, is unchanging, which is Christ. And that's a huge thing, and it doesn't make it easy, but it makes it simple. And again, I'm not trying to tell you that all of those desires are bad things, but we must root our identities and our entire beings in Christ first. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Because the things that we do produce are going to be enriched in fruit of the Spirit. They're going to be 1,000% in the will of Christ. You know, not to say we're not going to mess up, that we're not going to, you know, have instances where we miss the boat on that, but we're going to know what we need to desire. We're going to know the direction we need to go in. We're still going to fail, you know? We're going to have hiccups, but we know the directions we need to go in. And we know, and here's another point, we know that God doesn't ultimately owe us things. We view God as like a vending machine, right? Where we do a good thing, or, you know, like we read our Bibles consistently, and then we're like, well, when's God going to do this in my life? When's God going to grant me with that, with this person, with this job, like with this, you know, whatever. Just remember that God doesn't ultimately owe us things. We can't live life that God, you know, what does God owe us? You know, I mean, we've disobeyed. We've had plenty of times where, like, God could just decide he wants nothing to do with us, but that's not what he does. He desires us, but again, he doesn't just owe us everything that we've ever wanted. That's a huge part. Like, that's a huge part. You know, because you think it's transactional, and you think that, like, you know, why is God not rewarding me with something? Like, why, like, my good behavior should be rewarded. And then you get so down on yourself, and like they feel like you're in this waiting period or whatever. But the truth is, like, God doesn't just promise you that everything's gonna fall in your lap, right? I mean, we have to generate a lot of things. We have to remember that we have a lot of action to take, that we have a lot of, you know, if we want to fix those things, let's go out and fix them. If we want to, you know, if we want to set ourselves up for a good future, let's do that. Let's set ourselves up for a good future. Let's not just wait till God comes in and rearrange the pieces of our life and everything. Like, that's not what this is. You know, I try to get away from saying, you know, and I want to explain myself on this, but I try to get away from saying it's going to get better. I try to say more, God's going to be with me. God's going to be with me in this time. Because here's the thing. What if it doesn't get better? What if that thing doesn't resolve? You know? What if that thing doesn't work out? What if that person doesn't get healed? Is God failing me? Is God punishing me? Like, is that what that is? No. No. But God's there. Like, God sees that. He sees a tear. He sees the pain. He's not surprised by the way you feel. He's not surprised by what's going on. And he's gonna be with you. He's gonna be with you. He's gonna, whether you feel that or not, he's going to be there. And he is there. But I try to remember that as long as, if I keep Christ number one, and I go out in life, and I take initiative of things, and I produce what I need to produce, and I take on those burdens, and I make sacrifices, then I do have a feeling that things will get better. I do. But if they don't, I will be okay. And knowing that I am fulfilling my ultimate purpose, that I have an identity in Christ, that I've secured my position, that I've extended the teachings of Christ to other people, that I've represented myself the way I need to. Not that I was perfect, not that I didn't slip up, but that I kept on going even when it was tough, that I kept on pushing through things even though it was tough, that I kept getting back up after I fell and coming back to Christ even though I didn't feel like it all the time. That's what's valuable. That's what our mentality needs to be. I'm not saying that the heartbreaks you feel aren't real. And I'm not claiming to know the reasons for why everything happened the way they did. I'm not saying that this life can't kick our rear. But I am saying that it was never ultimately about a lot of those things that we have heartaches for. A lot of those material things that we have heartaches over, like, it was never ultimately about that. But watch as we produce. Again, what can we take by the horn? Like, what can we initiate? How much more love can we give? How much more patience can we practice? How much everything? What can we control? What do we have control over? That's the point. Ultimately we decide how long we want to suffer for. We can stay in this state. We can stay in this mindset of like God's punishing me, or that there's nothing for me, or that I've lost my purpose. Or we can go out and continue to just run back to God. Continue to just make sacrifices for Him, and just to generate and work on ourselves and build ourselves up, and then see what flows from that. And then we don't have to worry about us getting selfish, us using it in the wrong way, like, us taking advantage of people, or of just material things because we did it in the will of Christ. We know exactly how to use it. We know this is the purpose it serves in our life, and we know not to hold it over God. Like, that to me sounds like a much better way to go about things than just to let go and like feel like I have no purpose, or that I have nothing. Like, Because again, ultimately, like through that way is fulfilling our purpose. That's aligning ourselves with God. That's everything. I want you to remember, like, just and please be vulnerable when you can. Be vulnerable about things when you can. Find someone in your life to be vulnerable with, that you can present your real emotion to. Obviously, do this with Christ, do this with God, but find someone in your life. Iron sharpens iron. We understand that. That's a huge thing to chase. Just find somebody in your life that is going to listen. It's going to offer wisdom. It's going to do everything, and just hear you. Find somebody to be vulnerable with. That's going to go a long way. Don't just bottle up everything. And remember, you can present your real emotions to Christ. You can present that. You should present that real emotion to Christ. Whatever it is you're feeling, he's not surprised. And he sees it. He knows that. He knows. And I want to leave you with that quote. What is that quote? Like, I ask not for a lighter burden, but for stronger shoulders. Understand that it a lot of what we go through breaks us down, and then it builds us up. It breaks us down and it builds us up. But we have to do that building. We have to want to go through that fire, want to go through that hardship, and then make it on the other side with more ability, with more tools, with more everything. That's where a lot of things are taught. That's like where you in practice, when you go through those things, like that's where it's taught. That's where it's observed, like where you actually gain a lot of your wisdom, because we can say all these things, we can preach these things, we can say, we're going to do that in the moment, but then a lot of times when that moment comes, we don't. Then we have to learn, to be wiser the next time, or to how to adapt in that moment, like how to run to Christ in that moment. Understand that that's a huge point of life, like that it can be a pain, that you're going to go through hardship. Just protect your mental health. Like, reach out to people when you should, when you need to. See a counselor if you need to. And again, just remember to always keep in contact with Christ. Always just keep speaking to him. Just keep speaking to him. He just wants to hear from you. He just wants to hear from you. And I know it's tough. I know it's so tough. There's days where I go through whatever, and I feel like I never see a way out, and then I do. And then it just gets better, right? Like, time goes on, and the world keeps spinning, whatever. But it is tough at times. It really is. And I acknowledge that, and my heart goes out to you guys that are feeling that, now, or have felt that, or whatever. But you can allow yourself to feel that, but then it's about how do I assess this? Where do I go? Continue to place your meaning in Christ, place your identity in Him. Like, continue to do that. That's the biggest thing. And don't worry about, get away from that mentality of like, my life's going to be perfect when this happens, when this clicks or whatever, because it won't be. It won't be perfect. It won't fulfill you ultimately. It might for a while. You can run on that high for a while, but then it'll go away. And then what? Then what is it about? Your mental health will rise and tank for your entire life, and then like you'll realize it was never about that. And remember, when we go through tragedy, when we go through loss, when we feel that, remember that our hope doesn't have to be in this world. Our hope is not in this world, it's in the world to come. This was never our home, this was never the final say. And the promises of Christ to wipe every tear, to bring justice to everything, those are the promises. That's what he offers to us. That are we going to accept that? Is that what we want? And how do we approach preparing ourselves, for whenever our time is? How do we approach that? How are we setting ourselves up for that? You're not a failure. You're not a loser. You're not an abomination. You're not a deadbeat. You're not anything. You're a child of Christ. You're someone who's made mistakes. You're someone who's battled hardship. You're someone who's whatever the case is. Christ has called you. Christ still desires you. And He wants to connect with you on your suffering. He wants to connect with you on everything. You can recover. You absolutely can recover. You're not too far gone. That's exactly the narrative that the enemy wants to push, that you're too far gone, but then it'll stay stuck, but you're not. Christ identifies you correctly, and He calls you. He calls you even through all those mistakes, all those everything. It's about like, do you want to move forward? Do you want to move forward through this or not? Do you want to look past those things or not? Because Christ does. Christ wants to look forward and like focus on the now. Focus on what you can do now. Like, not about when it's all happened then. You're made new. You're made new. You're like you have renewal. You have revived. You have recovered. Don't let those past stop you from feeling like you just can't come back to Christ, because you absolutely can, and that's everything Christ wants. Like, it can be really hard, but I need you to believe. That heartache you feel from doing that thing, from being in that situation, that circumstance, the heartache you feel a lot of times is because deep down it's not your purpose. Deep down you were made for more. Like that this can't be it. Like, I need to feel love. I need to I need to feel a sense of belonging. And it was like, Christ is like, I can offer all that to you. I offer all of that to you. Yeah, but do you have that faith? Do you accept that? Do you believe in that? Because that's what Christ offers to you. That's what he puts on the table. And then it's your move. Then it becomes your move. Like, do you want to move forward with that or not? And he's going to give you the everlasting. He's going to give you that everything. Not the short term. Not what feels good in the moment, but what is everlasting peace. Like, Christ can give you all that stuff you know that you need. All that love, all that drive, all that everything. He offers that. He offers that. I mean, I could talk all about this for long periods of time. I really could. But I want you to remember that Christ is there. Christ sees those tears. Christ knows where you're hurting. He's acknowledged it. And your brain's going to fail you at times, and you're going to feel the ups and the downs, and allow yourself to feel that. It's a part of life, but you don't have to choose to stay there. You don't have to choose to keep going back to that thing. You can choose Christ. And he's waiting with open arms. Yours is. I'm rooting for you. And God bless.